What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to talk about my 2024 fantasy redraft quarterback rankings. The quarterback position this year is one that I think is going to be really fun to evaluate. It feels like kind of any tier you're looking at, whether that is a, really early, kind of spoiler alert, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen as your second or third round pick, or if you want to be, more in the middle of the rounds, in the fifth, sixth, seventh round with guys like Joe Burrow, maybe Jalen Hurts, Anthony Richardson, some young guys. You can get someone that feels really confident and safe there. Or if you just want to play it kind of like old school philosophy of, nah, I'll wait till the end of my draft because I know I can get the guys like, Jared Goff, Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Herbert a little bit later, in the back end of the draft. I feel really great, and I feel like there are a ton of options this year. This is probably the strongest quarterback class we've ever had for fantasy football, just from man, you can really go any direction. It doesn't really feel like if you get to QB 15, you're screwed. I think there's safe options throughout the board, and it kind of comes down to what philosophy or strategy do you really want to impose or implement when you draft. But without further ado, I just want to get right into it. And I think we start at the top with number one. I said his name earlier. It's Josh Allen, man. I mean, the guy is just a freak when it comes to fantasy football. He is a constant threat on the ground, through the air. And honestly, I think the only thing that can hold him back from being this stud is that they don't really have an established receiver there now that Josh Allen is gone. They also lost Gabe Davis. Really, the only major returning pieces are, Khalil Shakir and the tight ends and Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, who I like Dalton Kincaid a lot. They drafted rookie Keon Coleman out of Florida State, who's this, kind of big athletic freak receiver. Maybe not the most well-polished overall receiver, but is kind of just like a physical freak. But with Josh Allen, I mean, the big thing is he kind of has everything. Right? He does everything for fantasy football, and here just quickly looking at his stats. I mean, the guy throws for routinely 4,000 plus yards every single year, and rushes for, anywhere from 500 to 800 yards, basically year in and year out basis. Last year in 17 games, had 4,300 yards, 29 passing touchdowns, 18 interceptions, which is pretty high. That was a career high for him. But rushing on the ground, a little bit of a step back. It's back to kind of, 550 yards, but 15 rushing touchdowns. So when it comes to Josh Allen, that's what you're going to get at number one. It's a guy that is going to probably pass for nearly 30 yards or 30 touchdowns in a season. He's going to be healthy, hasn't really missed time in his career, has the chance to go from anywhere from 500 to 700 rushing yards, and it's going to flirt with double-digit touchdowns on the ground almost every year. So, I'm really hard pressed to find you can go with another option at number one, especially when it comes to just being safe. Even at his worst, if he's not the best passer, or even if he's not going to be the greatest runner, maybe he decides, hey, I'm going to, want to stay healthy. I'm not going to run as much. He's still going to pass for 30 touchdowns and 4,000 yards. And you don't get that from every quarterback in the NFL at this current time. Then we'll move on to number two. And these are the two guys I have in the truly worth an early round pick. These guys, I would say, if you're going to spend a second or third round pick on a quarterback, I think these two guys are the two that you go for: Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Obviously we know the Mahomes story, right? Last year was a bit of a down year for him, only throwing for 2,700 or 27 passing touchdowns, but still threw for 4,000 yards, is still awesome, and I think just truly elite. Last year was a different year for the Kansas City Chiefs. You had Rashee Rice, who's kind of their number one receiver, who really wasn't pegged to be it from the start of the season. Obviously, you have Travis Kelce kind of getting another year older. And outside of that, they really had no other significant weapons. But this year, I would say they bolstered up their receiving core. We don't know if Rashee Rice is going to be there because he's kind of an idiot. Maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't. But even outside of them, they drafted Xavier Worthy, I believe, at the end of the first round in the NFL draft as a rookie. Another year of Travis Kelce. They brought in Hollywood Brown, who is a pretty established receiver in the NFL and has talent. And obviously, I think the one thing that they've been missing from this offense is a field stretcher. and they got two, one in Hollywood Brown, one in Xavier Worthy, and they have Rashee Rice if he's going to be, here as the kind of the underneath guy with Travis Kelce manning the middle of the field. I think this could be a really great opportunity for Kansas City to just kind of open up that offense, which it really wasn't at all last year. And I think this is a big bounce back opportunity for Patrick Mahomes. The guy just won the Super Bowl, so obviously he's fine. But if he's going to work out as your truly, the truly worthy of an early round pick guy, he's got to be better than what he was last year. But I think he's in an opportunity to really capitalize and be that. Then we'll move on to my elite section. And I knocked this down to a 3-man group. I went with Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow. Starting off with Mr. MVP himself, Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar's a great guy, like a great quarterback. He's a little bit of a wishy-washy guy. He tends to fade towards the end of the year, but he starts off kind of the beginning of the year really hot. The rushing is always great, of course. Honestly, that's kind of what I got. I mean, he's not going to be the generational passer that you need him to be. But on the ground, it just seems like Lamar's never going to stop rushing. I mean, in his career, just looking at his stats right now, last year in his MVP season, passing the ball, he completed 67% of his throws for 24 touchdowns, 3,500 yards, which isn't awesome. Awesome. But when you go to the rushing, I mean, the guy is just a freaking animal in his career. I mean, he rushes for every year. He's rushed for, except for his rookie year, he missed it by 5 yards. He's been 700 or more rushing yards and basically five touchdowns every year. He's had a couple of 2 or 3. But so you're getting a quarterback who's going to rush for guaranteed 700 yards and averaging about 5 touchdowns while throwing for 25 touchdowns. That's a fantasy stud to me. I don't know if the upside for him to be a true 4,000-yard passer is there because he's never done it. But if he could just finish at 20 to 25 touchdowns through the air, rush for 800 on the ground, like he's pretty much locked in to do if he stays healthy, that's your guy in Lamar Jackson. And Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews missed a lot of time last year, just opens up that offense even more. Then we move on to Jalen Hurts, and quickly, I think last year was an offensive coordinator issue. I think he really looked like he took a step back, but I don't think you digress that much, if you want to digress. Regress, if you regress that much in 1 year after going to a Super Bowl. And it didn't feel that fluky with Jalen Hurts, especially with the pass weapons he has. I think that was an offensive coordinator issue big time. So I'm really aiming for a big bounce back from him. The rushing yards were a little bit, kind of back from last year, but if he's going to keep tush pushing, maybe that goes away with Saquon Barkley, but I'm just willing to take the bet that, hey, Jalen Hurts is still a really good quarterback with awesome weapons and an awesome offense. And if he's going to get the tush pushes, if he's going to get these rushing yards, I'm in. And then we talk about the man up in Cincinnati, Joe Burrow. I have him kind of in the back of this tier just for a few reasons. One, the rushing's not there. Not saying you have to be a pure rusher to be a stud in fantasy. That's not true, especially a quarterback. It's not true. You can throw for 40 touchdowns if you want. Joe Burrow's easily capable of that. But I saw last year, Joe Burrow didn't get the hottest start. He finally turned it around and Ja'Marr Chase really picked it up. And then he got hurt. He's been one that has had, it's nitpicky. Tore his ACL the 1 year and then last year missed some injury or time with an injured thumb. It's just a little bit of a nitpick where a lot of these other guys don't miss as much time. I know Lamar Jackson has, but his upside's a lot higher than Joe Burrow's. But I mean, when Joe Burrow plays, man, I mean, he is an absolute freaking animal. He is one of the best, if not, arguably the best quarterback in the league. And if he can get back to kind of form like he was in 2022, where he threw for 4,500 yards, 35 touchdowns, like that's a QB, top 5 QB to me. What I can't have is last year where in 10 games, he only threw 15 touchdowns. That's on pace for, if you average 7 more games, that's probably about a 28 touchdown season. I can't have that from a top 5 guy because I can get that with Tua Tagovailoa, or I can get that from Brock Purdy, who I would just take later. Burrow has the options and the great opportunity in that offense to throw to great weapons. You have Ja'Marr Chase, you have T. Higgins. It's a great offense, and he's a great quarterback. I'm not trying to talk crap and be like, well, he doesn't have upside. Of course he has upside. He's an awesome quarterback. But I think his upside shot of being a, maybe QB1, or high, like maybe a top 3 guy, it's a lot lower than these other rushing quarterbacks. All right, and then we move on to my upside plays category. These are guys who I think are going to go in kind of the middle rounds, more of not quite with the Burrow and Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson group, but a step below. And I'm going to start off with Anthony Richardson. And Anthony Richardson last year as a rookie, I think showed enough flashes in just 4 games before he had a shoulder injury. I think he showed enough as a passer for us to go, okay. I mean, I don't know if this guy's going to be, the next Mahomes, but he showed enough that I think he could throw for 20 to 25 touchdowns in a season. And what was really impressive was the ground stats. I mean, I have him right here, on the ground last year in just 4 games, had 136 yards, which isn't that crazy. That comes out to, 40-ish a game, but 4 touchdowns. And that's what matters for fantasy football. Four touchdowns in 4 games. And he got hurt in the 1 game. He didn't even play the whole thing. So if he's going to do that, and he's going to be this guy that is Cam Newton-ish, where the passing stats don't have to be crazy for him to kind of have a really safe floor, then I'm in. And to just be honest too, the receiving core there is pretty good. They have Michael Pittman, who just got paid. Josh Downs showed a lot of flashes last year. They just drafted a rookie receiver, who I'm blanking on right now, but they just drafted a new rookie receiver. And the tight ends have always been just decently solid, big red zone threats, which you just kind of need in the red zone with that kind of offense. And they have Jonathan Taylor, who's just a great running back. So I think that's an offense that's pretty much set up for success. If Anthony Richardson can just kind of hit it, then I'm in. If he can stay healthy, then I think he has a huge chance to be like a top 5 guy. The rushing's going to be there, and if he can keep up on that touchdown pace, which is pretty much impossible, but if he can at least finish the season with 7 to 10 rushing touchdowns, which seems very plausible for him and probable, there's no reason why Anthony Richardson can't be a top 5 QB at the end of 2024. Then we move on to CJ Stroud. Sophomore campaign is looking really, really, really promising. Didn't have the craziest stats last year, right? I mean, obviously as a rookie, awesome. 23 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions, which is probably the most impressive part of this whole thing, while throwing for 4,200 yards. And CJ Stroud to me just like blow up. It screams it. They got Stephon Diggs. They just paid Nico Collins. They have Tank Dell. They just brought in Joe Mixon. This is a team that is trying to contend this year. Those are, hey, our team, we really overachieved on like in 2023, where we were supposed to not make the playoffs. We were supposed to be a terrible team. Everyone made fun of us because we won a game at the end of 2022 and we couldn't draft Bryce Young. So we had to settle with CJ Stroud, and CJ Stroud came in and was awesome. With this, I just think that they're going to really, really push for the playoffs. And I think that means CJ Stroud has to step up in a big way. And I think they really, obviously they believe in him. He doesn't have the ground game, upside like pretty much every other person I've talked about. He's kind of like Joe Burrow, where I don't feel as confident in him passing for 30 touchdowns as I do Burrow, and that's why I have him in the upside play. But there's no reason he couldn't throw for 30 to 35 touchdowns, because he's that special. The arm's crazy. The accuracy is so sharp. CJ Stroud's just a really talented guy. And then we move on to someone I was really shocked by in Jordan Love. Jordan Love to me is just, he really impressed me. I did not like him coming out of college. You can go back and look at the old scouting reports I did on him out of Utah State. I thought he was very sloppy. I thought his footwork kind of sucked. I was like, no way this guy works. And he proved me wrong. Sure, he got the sat longer than a lot of other, kind of first or second round quarterbacks behind Aaron Rodgers. Last year, he stepped right in, threw for 32 touchdowns, really played well in the playoffs. I mean, what else can you ask for? And he has arguably the best overall receiving core in the entire NFL. When you go down the list of Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Dontavius Wicks, and then you even mixed in Luke Musgraves, and they lost, sadly, Aaron Jones, who's a great pass catcher, but even Josh Jacobs is really good out of the backfield as a receiver. So that's a lot of options. And what makes me kind of happy about that is, even if someone gets hurt, Christian Watson is kind of a walking hamstring pool. They have other guys to just step right up and play. So Jordan Love, that mixed with not a crazy upside for rushing, but a guy who's going to finish in that 200 to 300 and maybe 5 rushing touchdown range. To me, he's another guy that just screams blow up. Like, we have a real opportunity here for him to be really special. That's why I have him in the upside play. I wouldn't say he's truly elite yet because a lot of these guys, and honestly, all these guys have been 1-year wonders. I'm not willing to really just take the bait and go all in, which might make me go, like, make me miss on them. I might be too late. I might be having them like, too low. I would rather take proven guys over guys who did it 1 year and then take them at their highest point. I've been burned one too many times doing that. That's why I have them a little bit lower. And that's kind of why, like, I'm going to mix in, this one doesn't make sense. That's just very contrary, but I have rookie Jayden Daniels. I have Jayden Daniels in this list as an upside play. And it comes down to pure rushing. I mean, no rookie quarterback has ever really been that great for fantasy football unless they run, like Cam Newton. And I just saw Jayden Daniels run for 1,000 yards and like 1 billion touchdowns in college at LSU. He's awesome. If you watch my scouting report on him, if you want to, check it out. It'll be right above my head. But the dude's awesome. I think he was my QB2 out of this class behind Caleb Williams, and I think it was not even close between him and Drake May. So I think Jayden Daniels has the chance to just be really special. I mean, even if he just passes for 18 to 20 touchdowns, if he can do 5 to 600 on the ground and 5 to 10, like 5 to maybe 7, 8 touchdowns on the ground, which is, they're going to use his legs. If they don't, I don't know why they drafted him so high. I think he has a real chance too to be one of these blow up guys. If he just throws for 20 touchdowns, 3 to 3,500 yards or like even 3,000 yards, but he rushes for 606, he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in fantasy. And I think you get him at a steal. And I really like that the options he has out, in his receiving core. Terry McLaurin is a really good receiver. Someone's underrated. Jahan Dotson has proven that he's a touchdown threat. We have, Brian Robinson out of the backfield with Austin Eckler, who's a great pass catcher. So there's definitely weapons there that really scream to me like, hey, we could be a competent offense right away as long as Jayden Daniels is good. Obviously, this is more of a risk because he's a rookie and he could just be terrible, but I think he has the chance to be really good. Then we move on to my solid to safe players. And these ones I don't want to spend a ton of time on because we know the names. Starting off with Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott to me is one where he finished his QB3 last year, but I just don't trust it, man. I mean, there's just not a lot of options in Dallas. It's CeeDee Lamb, it's Jake Ferguson, and it's just not a lot else. They let the running backs walk. I don't see it. And Dak has been this guy the whole career. It's been up here, then down here. The second you start to trust him, he sinks. Then the second you give up on him, he rises right back up. I just think coming off a big season, I feel a letdown coming. It's something that is, you're going to be like, well, why would I listen to you? Because you can't really explain it. But I feel like I can't. I can't explain it. It wasn't always winning football, even though they were pretty good last year. It's my gut screaming at me saying, don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. And I have him at the top of this tier because he's going to throw the ball a ton. He always does. He's always going to finish you in a pretty decent place. He's a good week in and week out baseline. You need 17 points. That's the guy that'll get it for you. But I just don't know if the upside's there this year. Could be dead wrong because he just did it last year. But that with Dak, he's just burned me too many times. Then we move on to my boy Brock Purdy. Another one where the upside's not there, right? He's a good player. If you've been on a part of this channel, I've been a scouting report on him where I was like, dude, I love Brock Purdy, and it almost has 1 million views. Check it out if you want. But my point, I'm the biggest truther of Brock Purdy out there. I was the guy that believed in him in Iowa State and literally said, I think this guy could be a starter in the league. And I don't really have that much faith in him having a ton of upside. I think he's really awesome. Like, I think he does his job perfect. But in that offense, the upside just isn't truly there for him to be a 35 touchdown passer for 5,000 yards. That's probably not going to happen. Safe week in and week out. You need 17 points. He's your guy. But other than that, I just don't think you need to take him any earlier than what he's doing or where he's going. Then we move on to Kyler Murray. And this one's weird too because he has the rushing background, but he just hasn't been much of a rusher the past few years. I know he just came off the torn ACL, but the numbers have really went down since his first 2 seasons rushing, and he's never really been a huge, volume passer. I like him. Another one of those guys that's safe and solid, and he probably possesses a little bit more of upside. But I'm just kind of willing to go, maybe he rushes, but in the weeks where he doesn't really get a ton of rushing yards, I'm not sold that he's going to be super awesome. He has that floor with the rushing, but the passing just to me isn't there. Moving on to Tua. This one's weird too because I believe he led the NFL in passing yards last year. So how do I have this guy as just safe or solid? Definitely people would have him as an upside play. I just still don't totally believe it. It's another one that's screaming in my gut. And it's not that I think Tua sucks. I just don't think he's a winner, right? I don't think he he's in a winning mindset. I think a lot of his stats are padded. I think it's a lot of catch up. I think it's a lot of Tyreek Hill making big plays and not saving them, but being an extraordinary after the target or after the catch playmaker. Same thing with Jalen Waddle and Tua. I think he's good, but I just don't see it, man. I don't see him being the 35 passing touchdown guy. I don't see it. I think he's good. But I don't see it in the red zone. They ran the ball so much last year and scored so many 1-yard touchdowns. And maybe that was just a random outlier season. And I could be wrong. But with Tua, my gut is saying, nah, man, it just ain't there. Moving on to Justin Herbert, another guy. I love Justin Herbert. I think Herbert's great. I think he's one of those underrated passers because their offense has just been kind of a crapshoot for the past, 2 or 3 seasons. Not the best weapons, Keenan Allen and kind of just Mike Williams and Austin Eckler. But the guy's talented. I have him here because the weapons are just really weak. You bring in Jim Harbaugh from college, from Michigan, and I love Herbert, but I think, and how I play fantasy football is I'm more of a talent over situation guy. I prefer the talent of a player over their situation, but I think the situation is just going to be really tough to overcome. And maybe that, allows you to get him kind of at a discount because he's so talented, but I think he's great. I think he's great, but I just can't go into him being like, yeah, you're going to be my QB1. Oh, wait, you're throwing to Quentin Johnston? Okay, cool. I just don't feel confident in that. So that's why I have him a little bit lower. Still a great player, but I have him a little bit lower. And then quickly, I'll talk about the last 2 guys, Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff. Jared Goff, I'll just say really quickly, good quarterback, just doesn't have a lot of upside. Never going to be the guy that throws for 5,000 yards and 35 touchdowns. Safe. You need 17 points. This guy's literally the 17-point god. That's why I have him kind of at the end of the safe, solid group, just because he is safe and solid. But to me, he possesses very little upside. Trevor Lawrence, I like the guy again. I think he does have some talent, but he's been a little rocky on film. Is this the year he pieces it together? Maybe. But I, haven't been that impressed. He's thrown a lot of interceptions. He hasn't been that much, hasn't really won a ton in Jacksonville. I know they really like him, and I'm not saying that he's doomed. But, if he's going to finish the season with 25 touchdowns and 14 picks again, I can't have him any higher than, my QB, what is that, probably 15, 16 range. I can't do it. I like him. Think he's good. I think the offense is good with Kirk and Evan Ingram and now Brian Thomas Jr. and even Travis Etienne coming out of the backfield. But I just need to see more from Trevor Lawrence. And then, I don't want to spend a lot of time on these guys just because the video is getting long, but I think you kind of get it with a lot of them. We have the just get with your last pick guys. If you waited and passed on all these guys that I mentioned above, which honestly, you might not even have to, you might be able to get some of these safe, solid guys, which are late round picks. These guys might even be just kind of free agents that, or you take with literally your last pick. It's the Matt Stafford, Caleb Williams as a rookie, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins group. Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins, I just have in there because they've been really good before. They're coming off an injury. Maybe they bounce back to being good quarterbacks. Caleb Williams, it's just fun. Maybe he's going to be generational. Maybe he's going to be the best quarterback we've ever seen. He has the weapons set up with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and even Rome Odunze with a good receiving backs out of the backfield and DeAndre Swift. And I like Khalil Herbert a lot. And you even have Cole Kmet. So it's another one where it's a really strong receiving core overall. He's set up to succeed. It's just he's a rookie. How good can he really be? And then we go with Matty Stafford, who's just another one where he's aging. He's a little bit older, obviously. But at this point, he's proven to me that he's a good quarterback, obviously. And he has 2 really awesome weapons in Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. It comes down to, did he take a step back? He's getting pretty up there in age. Battling injuries pretty much it's kind of Rams tenure here. just don't take him early. You know, if you want to take the shot on him, I'm cool with it. But wait till your last pick or get him as a free agent after your draft, because I think he's easily going to be there. And then you kind of get the don't waste your time guys. I mean, I'll rattle them off. Baker Mayfield, good bounce back season last year, but lost their offensive coordinator, who's going to be the Carolina Panthers head coach. Baker, I've just seen it with literally, let's see who else is on this list here. Let's see. You got Geno Smith, who is the same thing, kind of had the bounce back year, the Ryan Tannehill special, where you have this big bounce back year after being kind of, counted out, and then you fall off because you're really not that great. You might just had kind of a Cinderella story. You had your Linsanity run. And I kind of think that's where Baker's going to be. I think he looked good last year, truthfully, but I'm not willing to buy it. I'll take him as maybe a free agent, if I have to, but I'm good. I'm not going to waste the time drafting him. Deshaun Watson, I mean, maybe he just gets back to being the old Deshaun Watson on the football field, not in real life. That's a bad thing to be, but maybe. I don't want to do it, but maybe. Then you go with Will Levis, the guy who's been really viral on Twitter. They're on X, if you know. He showed a little, flashes last year. He had that 4 touchdown game. The receiving core got a little upgraded with another year DeAndre Hopkins, and they just brought in Calvin Ridley, brought in Tony Pollard out of the backfield. So hey, maybe. Bryce Young, first overall pick last year. Really bad season, but they brought in Deontay Johnson. They drafted Xavier Legette. You have another year at Adam Thielen. Dave Canales, who is we just talked about him with Baker Mayfield, comes in after kind of revitalizing Baker's career. Maybe he could be the head coach, OC play caller for Carolina, and really give Bryce Young a year 2 boost. And then I just don't even want to talk about the rest of the guys. They don't really matter. Don't take them. Not worth your time. Just pass on Gardner. Justin Fields, I'll say quickly. Maybe Justin Fields, if he becomes the starter for the Steelers because of the rushing upside, he could just be kind of a flyer. Why not take him? Because if he rushes for 1,000 yards like he did before, then obviously he's going to be great for fantasy football if he starts. But I have a feeling they might start Russell Wilson over him to start the season. All right. So that was a longer video, but those were my 2024 quarterback fantasy redraft rankings. If you like the video, leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel. I'll have tight ends coming out next in my next video. But if you like the video, leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel for plenty of content. We're just hitting, it's May 30th as I'm recording this video. We're hitting June. So fantasy football is really getting into the swing of things probably near the end of June, heading into July. So we're about a month away. So if you want to get a leg up, if you want to start researching, looking early, stay tuned. I'll have plenty of videos coming. Like I said, tight ends are next. So stay tuned. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.